and welcome to Money and Impact, a show where we discuss money and impact. I'm Suzanne Caldeira. I'm a mortgage lender. I've been in lending for over 23 years, deal with a lot of money. So I'll have guests that will touch upon the money segment for folks. And then I have folks that have affected me both personally and professionally throughout my lives that are in the impact section. And today I am delighted and beyond stoked to have Liz McDonough, who's a health and wellness coach and here to speak to us. So Liz, thanks for joining.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So share your story. What got you into this?
So my passions have always been health and wellness, that beyond. I've always been very active, outdoorsy, adventurous, growing up in upstate New York. And I didn't necessarily take that path from the beginning. You know, I did that in my personal life, but in my professional life, I went down a different road. You know, I went down the corporate world and did that for 25 years in the lighting industry. Great career, but just got to a point where I was like, at what point am I going to do what I'm passionate about and what I love? So I made the change 2 years ago and left my corporate job and literally with no plan in place and just said, okay, I'm going to do this.
Was that scary?
Of course. It took 6 tries going into the office to actually, go in and have the meeting where I said, I'm leaving. I can't do this anymore.
Did you find that having that corporate background helped you with structure and planning to make that jump?
For sure. I mean, because I was in sales for the last 20 years of that. So working from home, managing my time, managing my clients and all of that, yeah, certainly. I think all of those building blocks are there, but it is definitely different when it's for yourself. It is a lot different. So.
Did you have any guilt saying, hey, I'm going all in on something for myself?
I think that's a big piece of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because especially as women, we have a really hard time putting ourselves first. So guilt in the sense of, wow, I'm actually getting to do this, and kind of feeling guilty that everybody else was out there still doing the corporate thing. And then here I was with free time, but also still trying to figure it out, right? It took a little while to kind of figure out, and I'm still, right? It's a work in progress every day, so.
Were there any naysayers in your circle?
Oh, there's many, and you hear it all the time, and you learn pretty quick to not necessarily let go of them completely in your life, but you learn to spend less time with those people because you have enough voices in your own head that are telling you, wait, how are you gonna do this? Constantly, I mean, every morning, it's on repeat, how are you doing this? So then if you have other people in your life that are telling you that same thing from a negative perspective, yeah, you have to reduce the amount of time that you're spending with those kinds of people and find others that are more positive.
Yeah, and when you talk about the health and wellness, that also comes true with who's your circle.
Absolutely. I think that is one of the most critical pieces for everybody. I mean, they say, right, the 5 people you hang around with are the 5 people you will be most like, and I do truly believe that. And that's something that I have, in the past year, really, really expanded my circle. I mean, that's how we met too, right? I mean, just networking and just being in the company of people who want to be better and want to grow.
Were there any times that you doubted yourself? I mean, I know you mentioned the 6 times, but talk us through that.
Yeah, I mean, it's constant, and it's still to this day. I think we are so ingrained, right? Our brains are trained to find the negative. And that is day in, day out, right? When you go back to the caveman days, that's what it was, right? We were trained to go into that fight or flight in case the tiger or the lion came up and we had to run and get away. But to flip that and to see the other side of that and to just take a lot more pauses and to put things in perspective. But yeah, it is hard. There's a lot of doubt, and I think what gets you out of the doubt is taking action, right? And my background's in engineering, so my brain is like, oh, well, we have to do all these 20 steps in order to get where we're going, and until all 20 of them are done perfectly, you can't take that step. And I've learned over these last 2 years to just take the step, take messy action, take a chance, try something. If it doesn't work, do it differently. And that's a learning curve. But the more that you do that, the more you start to believe and you start to see the results and realize that you can do this.
Now, a lot of times people that I've spoken to that have gone after their dream or their passion, may have had callings a lot earlier than when they made the leap, or in your case, the 6 attempts. Were there times in your career where someone would say to you, "Oh, Liz, thank you for that," or?
Definitely. I mean, I think honestly, this has been at least a 10 or 15-year journey, I would say, like that I have been just seeking. I think that's the biggest word, is like seeking something else, knowing there was something else there, but not really sure what it was, right? Along that whole path, I had gotten certified as a personal trainer, a health coach, and then most recently a life coach. And all of those things, like they were the building blocks that I was putting in place for the things that I love to do, so that when I was finally ready to take that chance, I'd be there. But it was, I think, I don't want to say what held me back, but I was a single mom I'm still a single mom, for 15 years, and leaving that corporate steady paycheck, extremely difficult, right? Because, you replace I'm doing my thing of passion, but now the financial piece is real. And so that, I think for me, was the reason I stayed in it for so long. It was just like full throttle. How can I survive, have the job, have, my personal life, do the things that I want to do with my 2 boys. And it worked for a long time. So, I don't regret, staying in it as long as I did, because I think I learned a lot of lessons along the way.
How did you get through your engineering experience to do the messy steps? I like how you said that earlier. How as an engineer did you take those?
How do I actually take the action?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's literally, it's almost like, think about those, the spin art thing that we did when we were little, and you'd put the paint in and it spun around and it came out with this messy thing. And it's almost like, having so many ideas and just picking one, really. Picking one, pick the one that's the easiest, the one that feels the most fun, and just try it, right? Like, holding different networking events. I had done this thing called the Wellness Collaborative last year. I'd get 2 or 3 people, and I'm like, okay, that was fun, but maybe that's not it. Put that on the shelf for now. Like, don't continue to do something that's not working. And I think that's something that when we're in corporate, we're in a job that we do day in and day out, like we know exactly what we're going to do from 8 o'clock in the morning until 5 o'clock at night. It's all laid out. And this is so much different. It's developing a whole new process of, really what's going to work, and like, how do I get my leads, and then what am I going to do with these people once I get them, and how do I want to coach them, and all of those things. And I will say the biggest thing though is truly listening to like my own self, my own intuition, and like letting that be my guide. Like if something feels like it'll be fun and exciting, go after that, right? If you're looking at your calendar and you have 5 things out there and you're dreading every single one of them, they're probably not things that are going to move your needle forward. So and that's taken a long time to learn to listen.
Have you found attributes that work well for people to make changes in their lives?
I think you have to be ready, for one. You have to be ready and willing to ask for help is another big one. But I think, finding a mentor, it doesn't even have to be a coach, but just any kind of mentor that you can talk to, that you feel comfortable opening up to, somebody who's going to listen to you and help you to figure out what that next step is. I think a lot of people, they don't know what's next. So then they just stay where they are because it's comfortable, it's stable. But to really sit down and allow yourself to kind of dream about what's next while you're in the thing that you're in,
Have there been mentors in your life that have impacted you?
Yeah, definitely. Lots of mentors. I would say the ones most recently are all the people that I did Todd Durkin's Impact Life Coaching Certification it started last September and we finished in March. And the people I met in that group are truly my people. Like they're my tribe. And so many people in that group, like we reach out to each other daily. Some of us multiple times a day, depending on where we're at, just providing encouragement and, keep going, you'll find your way. Just that piece is huge. So being able to have those people that are there, all the time.
Well, what are some of the things that you learned from that you're taking forward in your business?
From the life coaching? So many. I guess having a framework, having the right people surrounding you, knowing, I think the impact, like one of the biggest things that this program talked about was like our mindset. And we hear that all the time.
Yeah.
And it is critical to everything that we do, right? Our thoughts around the thing that is actually going on are really what create the havoc or the happiness. It's what we choose to think, and it truly is our choice. And that takes a long time. We have this thing called, it's basically a thought model, and we look at it, and I spent 60 days. Literally, I would wake up every morning with the thought, you can't do this. You need to get another corporate job. And then I would just start like, why am I feeling that way? What are the thoughts behind it? What are the feelings? And just trying to reconnect like the dots in your brain to be different. So instead of it always going to that thought, it's what can I change it to in order for it to be a better thought that I believe that literally I can almost like punch it back. Like the minute it comes up, it's like, oh, here you go. Like take that. This is what I'm thinking instead. And right, it takes 60 to 90 days to instill a new habit. So doing something like that is critical.
Now, did you do that through meditation or through mindfulness or through your exercise? Like, how did you do that?
I think for me, it's been so many different things.
Sure.
And really finding what works and realizing that every day is a different day. Like some days I meditate. Every day I exercise for the most part or move my body. And that for me is my biggest thing. That is how I call it finding my peace. But there are some days, yes, that I wake up and my body's tired. I just need quiet, right? It's just so busy. And so, I have several apps that I use. I do meditation. I do a lot of walking outside, but just trying to be still. And something that I do even with clients is taking 5 minutes of do nothing time. And that sounds so simple, but 5 minutes to literally not do anything. Don't even meditate. Don't just sit for 5 minutes and let your mind just be. And so, it's really a combination of lots of things. And I think letting go of this person does it this way and this person does it this way, therefore I should do that and then I'll be fine. It's really, right, it's like the rest of it's like finding all the little bits and pieces that work for you and having them all as tools in your toolbox that you can use at any given point.
Have you ever had any clients that just couldn't get over some of their mental obstacles?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard, right? It's hard, and it takes time. I do find that the first, most of my clients I work with for at least a 3-month period at a time, the first 4 weeks are challenging because people don't want to be vulnerable. People don't want to share the hard stuff. They want to stay surface level. But once they do get below, and I feel like once they find their why, like why do you really want to do it? And we have this thing we do, it's called 7, it's like the 7 layers. Mm-hmm. So you keep digging in, like why do you want that? Why do you want that? Why do you want that? And if you do that enough, you get to the real why. And I think once people figure out what that real why is, that's the motivator. That's now why I can get up every morning and exercise. That's why I'm going to eat right. That's why I'm going to make the right choices. But I think until you find that and until you dig into some of the beliefs that you have, it's hard to get there.
Is that something that someone can do on their own?
Oh, absolutely.
Get through to their layers through self-questions?
Yeah. Yep.
What are some of the questions that you should ask yourself?
Well, I think it's one, so really looking at your life as a whole, mm-hmm. and there are many pieces, right? I mean, even through my health coaching days, we would always say that food is our secondary source, not necessarily our primary, because there's all these other buckets, right? We have our finances, just as you know. We have our family, our adventure, our love. There's all these different things that make up our lives, and truly making sure that they're all in balance. So that's what I like to start with, and then to figure out which of these areas do you want to change? And then starting to dig in, what 3 things can we change? How do you envision that? If that was your ideal world today, what does that look like? What does it feel like? And how can you reverse engineer to get back to that? And doing that with each of the areas of your life, because they're all intertwined.
True, yeah. I've often heard, and I think you might have said it, actually at the table that we sat at when I first met you. You made a comment about just one little change in a habit mm-hmm. can lead to something. Do you recall that, or do you recall?
Yeah, I think it's the one day at a time theory, right?
Okay.
And that's honestly that's how I got through even my divorce and going through all of that, like one day at a time. Maybe it's 1 minute at a time. You know, it's just small, consistent change. I mean, really, things are easy. It is not hard to change if you do it consistently. And I'm just a big believer in, like, let's not take off this ginormous chunk and try to change that tomorrow. What small things can you do? Because if you build them small, you'll build the habit, and then it's easy to stack on other things.
And exercise for you has been a big part of your
Oh, God.
life. Talk about your
Huge.
mountain biking.
So mountain biking is absolutely my love, my favorite thing. I've always been an athlete. I was a gymnast. I was a softball player. But found biking over the last 15 years, and just, I love it. Anytime I can be on the trail, in the mountains, both of my boys mountain bike. One of them does enduro, which is more downhill style, and the other does cross country. That's more my style, but I do both, just so I can be out there with them. But yeah, I love it. It's when I just feel like my soul is so fueled when I'm in the mountains and on my bike. It's just this freedom that I can't get anywhere else.
And what else besides mountain biking fuels you?
Honestly, anything outside. Like, we love skiing, but really being in the mountains, in the lakes, just outside adventuring and being with my boys. I have two boys, two teenagers, 15 and 18, so they
fun
keep
ages.
me, they are fun ages, but it's also a time where I feel like I have more freedom than I've ever had in my life, you know, being able to do things for me that I put on hold for a long time because I kind of revolved my life around what they were doing. So,
Yeah, and how do you think that's affected them? You know, you going out on your own, you starting your own business. How?
yeah, I hope that it's providing them the inspiration and motivation that they can also do the same, and just realizing that the importance of us doing what we love to do, right? Not just doing what society tells us we should be doing. I think that is my biggest lesson that I hope my two kids and everybody, you know, we can do whatever we want. Like, we're the creator of our life. And it's just a matter of timing and, you know, willingness to jump into that to make the change.
What do you think gets in the way for people? You know, someone that's been at a job for 10 or 20 years and feels stable. What do you think gets in their way?
Fear. Fear and worry are the two biggest things behind it. And we worry about all the things that might happen that likely never happen. And many times we have no control over what those are anyway. And fear is, I would say that is the number one, right? You're fearful of the unknown. And I get it. Right? I've done it twice. I've jumped into the unknown when I got divorced. That was unwillingly, and then jumped in again when I left my career and decided to start this. And I think my biggest maybe rebuttal to that is that it's okay. Like, and no decision is forever. And I think I used to think that, well, right, I worked in this job for 20 years and the next job has to be another 20 years. And nope, the next thing could be a year. It could be 6 months, you know, just continue to go after things and try them. Because when we're doing new things and trying on other options, I feel like that's where the fun and the creativeness is.
Why do you think women struggle with that?
Well, we're so used to serving others and doing really just doing everything for others. We have a really hard time putting ourselves first because that's not what we've learned. It's not how we've done it. So we feel a lot of guilt.
Are there those that follow the path that can, I don't know, almost be toxic and not supportive?
Oh, absolutely. And I think there are people who they may not even have support on their side, right? They might not have somebody in their family that supports them enough for them to feel like they can let go. But really, we can't. I always say that if we can't be healthy ourselves, we're better when we're healthy. Like, we can serve more people, we can help our family more when we're healthy and we're 100% in our own brain.
And for someone that is dealing with, you know, limiting beliefs, like, oh, I don't have that much education, or I'm not this, or I'm not that. What do you suggest are some 2 to 3 things that they can do?
Yeah, I think it's really digging into what are the key thoughts that they come up with all the time. Like for me, in the morning, it's that, oh, you can't do this without a real career. And finding what those are for you, and then changing that list around and saying, okay, why is this not true? And here are all of the reasons that it is not true. And basically that's you writing out why you are not that thought that you think you're having, right? Like, oh, I'm not strong enough, or I'm not capable enough. And then you write down all the things that you've done. You'll be amazed at how long that list is. And you just have to look at that over, and you have to do it over and over and over. It could take weeks, months, but you have to be willing to do the work.
Yeah, the mind can trick you.
The mind
can trick you to believe that your feelings are true when they're just feelings.
Right.
I saw something online that talked about your bad days and how your track record, and that you've survived those bad days 100% of the time.
Yeah,
But another thing I saw that was interesting was a cloud, and it talked about how before you get through the cloud, things are fine, but as you're going through it, you just got to keep going.
Right.
And I think
it's like the messy middle is what I call that, right? It's this, and knowing that you've done it before, and the more times that you put yourself in a situation that is unfamiliar, that is unknown, the more that you can do it, because you've done it. And you just keep doing it, and then it's, oh, well, I did this small one, and so now the bigger one is not as hard to tackle anymore.
Where do you think you find the most joy in working with your clients?
Seeing them have success, literally just seeing all their wins, and especially when they're not finding the wins, and you can remind them of, look at all the things you did just this week. So.
And are there clients where you say, you know what, that client might not be the right type of client? Are there clients, I guess if you could say, what's Liz's nose?
There are. I think I'd almost flip that and say, what are they? Yes, it's really somebody who's active, somebody who's motivated, somebody who wants that next level for themselves. They know. It's not even a question, right? They're not afraid to make the investment, because it's an investment in ourselves. And I think that's the piece that's missing so often with coaching. It's we think it's the cost. What's the cost to this? And really, it's not a cost, it's an investment. So yeah, the people who are ready and motivated, and those are the people. Because if you're not there yet and you're still questioning it, I feel like you're not ready yet.
Yeah. What do you think have been some pivotal moments in your life personally that have made you who you are?
I think both being an athlete and honestly going through divorce, and just even working in the corporate world and going after, being the person who was chasing accolades and achievements for so long, and then realizing that it's not about that, right? It's about truly finding happiness within, and that will ultimately lead to the success. And that everything that we go through, it's there for a reason. It's there for us to learn the lesson. And that it's not, oh, it happened to me. It's oh, it happened for me. And what's the lesson? I think when we can finally get to a point where we flip the script and we can truly find the value in what we were supposed to learn, that's huge.
Yeah, and for the people that are so pre-wired, as we are prehistorically, as all of us are, how else, besides asking yourself those questions, how else can you work through that negativity?
I think it's also finding ways that you can, finding things that put you in that joy or that bliss state. And truly that is. And I know that's hard for people to believe that, oh, I could just go out. For me, it's a walk or it's exercise or a bike ride. And if I know that I'm sitting at my desk and I'm having trouble coming up with something that I'm supposed to be working on, I'll go out and I'll take, even if it's 5 minutes, just walk around the block and come back. And you have to find those things that make you happy. And that literally, it just shifts your state. It changes your state, your brain. And physical does that a lot. That's why I say, to me, the exercise piece, the movement side of things, truly can bring you to that state. And when you do that and you get to that happier place, your mind will shift. So it's really always being able to have that list of things that can take you to that place.
What else besides skiing and the bike riding do you get the most joy from?
I like traveling. Mostly to the mountains, but there's a whole list of places. I'd love to go to all the national parks. I love going up to see my family. They live on the northern end of Lake George in New York. Hanging with friends, just being in good company and good energy. When you leave a a meeting and you just, like, you're energized, you're on fire. So I like that.
Yeah, I think good company is important. There's a difference from hanging around with people that talk about people to people that are talking about inspiring things and ideas.
Exactly.
Different.
Gossiping versus kind of what's next, and being on that path, the journey of what you're truly looking for.
Yeah. Is there a dream vacation spot?
Probably, I mean, the next, I don't know if it's a dream, but the next one is probably, I would love to go up to Banff in Canada and do that whole journey all the way over to Vancouver. That would be amazing. And then skiing, probably Jackson Hole,
Sweet.
Big Sky,
Yeah.
somewhere out in Montana. Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Well, Liz, I got to say, it was an absolute delight having you on the program.
Thank you. Thank you for asking such interactive questions, and you really kept the conversation flowing. And
Yeah.
it was so easy. So
Yeah, you're a good egg, and great to speak to. And as always, you're watching Money and Impact. I'm Suzanne Caldeira. For more information on today's guests, please stick by the credits, and see you next time. Thanks.